Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Wildcard Devy podcast. We are back. I am Phil. He is Jack. That rhymed. It wasn't intentional. Jack, it's great to see you, buddy. Rocking the National Championship Ohio State jersey there. It's going to be number 4, isn't it? Stand up, show people. Stand up, show people. Number 4. Look at that. A Jeremiah Smith jersey. Okay, that's the only time he's getting mentioned today. That's it. Jack, how you doing, bud?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thank you, mate. We are in the depths of the Easter holidays. So we've had a nice bit of time. My parents have retired down to Cornwall. So we've had some lovely time in the sunshine down there. And I know you've been somewhere a little bit more exotic. How was your holiday?
Yeah, man, not bad. Just back from a week in Spain. Holidays aren't holidays when you've got 2 small children in your life, or at least they're not like not like they used to be. But
It's
it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. Nice. My brother-in-law lives out in Spain, so we went to kind of go see him and his wife, spend a bit of time with them, and yeah, it was lovely, man, lovely. And then just back this week and back to reality with a bang, I think.
Yeah, well, you still got a few more days. A few more days.
Yeah.
My mantra on holidays with children is they're just childcare somewhere else with new risks and new dangers. But we still do it anyway because we get some element of fun and relaxation out of it.
That's it. That's it. Well, listen, tonight is the show that we've been promising people for a long, long time now. We are going to break down the top 6 freshman QBs for the class of 2028. So this incoming crop of freshmen. There's some excellent names to look at, some really exciting skill sets to discuss, and it's going to be. It'll be really interesting to see how they kind of stack up. I haven't seen what you've written. We've not kind of compared notes or anything like that. We drew straws for these guys last time round. So yeah, interesting times ahead. I certainly enjoyed my homework. It was so much more enjoyable sat doing it by the pool, rather than sat doing it kind of in the house back at home. So I suppose then, Jack, like anything else that you really want to get into?
Yeah, I guess my first point on the class is it is really deep. Like we're touching on 6 names, but these are 6 names at that headline kind of a 20 deep class that we could look at for Devy purposes. So it's a real opportunity to throw those late dart 3rd, 4th, 5th round Devy picks if you're in a shallower league at some quarterbacks. So we will look to mention some more in the future. So if your favorite prospect is not mentioned tonight, it's not because we don't like them. It's because we don't have enough time in the week to analyze them all. Now, speaking of things that have come up in the last couple of weeks, over the last couple of days, if you are active on X and you follow some people like Campus to Canton or Jared Palmgren at the Chasing the Natty podcast, or Eric Froton, the NBC college head college writer, you've seen a bit of chatter along with someone who I'm sure most of our listeners have heard of or know about, and that is Mr. Scott Fish, because the Tadpole Bowl has been announced. They are Scott Fish and Eric Froton and a load of college fantasy football guys are trying to gauge interest in a college fantasy football Scott Fish Bowl style tournament, obviously raising money for Fantasy Cares and for loads of children's causes across mostly America, but they're gauging interest. So if you are interested in playing in a Scott Fish Bowl style league, if you're interested in literally dipping your toes into the pool or the pond that is college fantasy football, I'd really encourage you to just register your interest. If you find any of those guys on X are kind of promoting it at the moment, I'm definitely signed up. I'm really hoping that I get a spot in the Tadpole Bowl, as they're calling it. And we would love to get as many UK representatives in there as possible, and even more, as many Wildcard Devy listeners in there as possible. So check out X. We'll retweet 1 or 2 or 3 of those. I certainly have been. This is probably the most active I've been on X for about 5 months. So if you find my my handle, which is at the bottom under my name at Jack CDCTT, you'll be able to find plenty of links to sign up. So go and have a look and check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the dream. I'll certainly be signing up as well. I think the dream would be to have enough UK-based players to potentially, badger them about letting us draft and letting us kind of, have a kind of live or live show type thing, like UK based. How cool would that be? So yeah, it's a call of arms to all our listeners, any Devy degenerates and CFF junkies out there this side of the pond. Let's see if we can make it happen. That'd be awesome.
Absolutely. I'd love to have a UK division, even if we can't all draft in person all together, getting a UK division, mainly just so we don't have to draft at 2 a.m. in the morning. That would be great. That'd be really nice.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's spring football. Nothing happens in the spring, right, Jack?
Oh my gosh, how times have changed, eh? This
No.
this transfer portal window that opened technically today, Wednesday, as we record, but actually has been open for the last 2 weeks at least, has been bonkers. And obviously, we touched on the Nico I'm a leaving saga 2 weeks ago, and so much of that saga has stretched out over the past 2 weeks that more information is coming out as we speak.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an absolute whirlwind, and we've kind of been texting each other, updating each other whenever we saw a news drop. The situation as it stands right now is Nico is no longer a Tennessee Volunteer. He decided to renegotiate. So the way it looks, based on what we know, is he decided to try and renegotiate his NIL contract even during the kind of playoff stretch of the last college football season, which, um, look, it is what it is. You'll hold your own thoughts and opinions on that. It appears that the young man is kind of the victim here, or at least that's the kind of portrait that's been painted. Um, in a very patriarchal family, dad seems to have a quite controlling say in his son's interests, as does the agent. He's been shopped around trying to score a better deal. Um, and I think it's really bitten him, to be quite honest. The lad, listen, from a Devy perspective and from a purely a football perspective, we've been quite loud about how disappointing last year was for him. And we just questioned last time whether it was really the right time for him to be demanding more money. Ultimately, uh, look, we will also have opinions on how college footballs were at the moment in the age of NIL. Um, all I'll say is Nick Saban was right. And look, I'm actually, dare I say it, really proud of Tennessee and Josh Heupel for making a stand and saying, "Nah, do you know what? Enough's enough here. Yeah, do you know what, son? If you want paying that type of money, off you go. Off you go. Go find that money." And the irony right now for him is he is struggling to find it, it would appear. Um, North Carolina was the first kind of big one that was touted around. uh, go and be Bill Belichick's first quarterback. What a great situation that would be for him to fall into. But they seem to be looking elsewhere. They're looking at Gio Lopez from South Alabama. So then you say, right, okay, well, where else is logical? He cannot transfer to any other SEC school if he wants to play this upcoming season. So that rules out an Alabama, LSU. Not that they'd want him with Garrett Nussmeier there, etc. But looking at those situations, so then you say, right, does he go back to California? He's a California kid. Does he look at UCLA? Does he look at USC? And at the moment, neither of those are making noises that they want him. So it's going to be really, really strange. Texas Tech is another one. NIL kind of money rich, new money kind of school, if you like. What I really want for this kid from a Devy perspective, as someone who still owns one share, is I really, really want him to step back now and say, do you know what? The money's going to be here generationally if I get this next step right. I'm going to go to the NFL and I'm going to be in a potential situation where I can earn money for the next 10, 15, 20 years rather than have to have it all right now. And I want him to find an offense and an opportunity that's going to allow him to demonstrate the skill set that we know that he has. And maybe he's not shown us so far in Josh Heupel's offense. We know that kind of run and gun offense at Tennessee, that's very kind of spread and maybe didn't necessarily play to all of his strengths. Maybe he needs to go somewhere that can help him demonstrate that he has a skill set desirable to NFL teams and gamble on himself a little bit because look, basically the money that he wants isn't there. Tulane are another school that have pulled out of the running this week because they're not willing to pay what he wants. So in a way, I feel for the kid. I feel like he's been pulled around all over the place, trusting people to make decisions for him who have maybe ran before they could walk, so to speak. And now, yeah, it just leaves the kid in an awkward situation. If you earn Devy shares, yeah, hold because you're not going to get a fair value for him right now.
Yeah. The really sad thing here is that nobody is a winner from this scenario. So obviously Nico has to leave Tennessee, and the relationships he's built up there. I can't speak to the ins and outs of that locker room, but he'll have had some relationships there, some good ones. I don't think we've ever seen any reports that he's a real problem in that locker room, but to bring him back after this probably would have created some. That reputation will now kind of follow him wherever he goes. There'll be people, and players are people, they're young men who will have certain opinions on what Nico is doing, and if he's brought into their program, they might not be on board with it, and then any negative thing that happens on or off the field kind of reinforces that opinion. So he's really going to have to prove himself as a good teammate wherever he goes. And like you say, that money's gone. He's not going to get anywhere near that figure he was looking for right now because no program needs to pay that to have him on their roster, especially if he's only going to be there for 1 year, whether that's a prove it and then transfer again, or if he goes to the NFL as soon as he's eligible. It's bad. It's bad timing. It's trying to use leverage that really has blown up in his face. And from a Devy point of view, I think my ideal situation is that he goes somewhere where he can sit and learn, because I'd like him to go to a big program that will develop him. I don't want him to just drop down too far into an offense where he'll start, but he won't really develop or grow as a quarterback. We've seen Dante Moore do that, go from a starter, transfer to Oregon, sit and learn that offense, and we'll see if that brings good fruit for him in this season. Most likely, it looks like he is going to win that quarterback battle, but that might be the best route, certainly for your Devy shares of Nico, because I can't see him going and starting anywhere that's going to really develop him into a first round quarterback, because nobody's putting their hand up and saying, we'll take you.
That's it. So I suppose it's as clear as mud. It's just, we'll see what happens next. It's not the only kind of transfer portal news, though, is it? Tell us what's been going on at Cal.
Yeah, so Cal, the big news out of Cal is that star running back Jaden Ott is in the transfer portal, and actually he's already found a home. He has been bedazzled by Oklahoma, and so Ott is going to take his superstar talent. Let's be honest, I really like Jaden Ott. He's going to go to Oklahoma. We'll get on to that in a second. We'll talk about what that means for him and his Devy potential. But something is not right at Cal, because 5 scholarship running backs have entered the transfer portal. And that is all 5. There are no scholarship running backs on that roster anymore. So Jaden Ott, Byron Cardwell, Kadarius Callaway, Justin Williams, Thomas, and then Javian Thomas was kind of left there for a day, and suddenly his Devy prospects were looking up, and his 2025 season was looking quite exciting. And then as of 2 hours ago, he has also entered the transfer portal on this Wednesday, the 16th of April. So there are no scholarship running backs currently on the roster at Cal. Their starting tight end entered the transfer portal 10 minutes before we started recording. Something's not right there, whether there's a coach that is leaving and it hasn't been announced yet, or there's a coach that's done something that they shouldn't have done, or there's been a statement on which direction the offense is going to take. I mean, it could be that they've suddenly decided to go air raid and that's why all the running backs are out the window. But I don't imagine that's the case, but something's not quite right there.
No, absolutely. And up to Oklahoma, obviously they've gone big in the transfer portal this year, or this off season, adding John Mateer at quarterback, and now Jaden Ott. That's a dynamic, tandem, because John Mateer can run. John, that's been one of his real skill sets. Now, how that feels beautiful.
It does, and I think if you're an Oklahoma Sooner fan, this is really exciting because the program needs a bit of a refresh, and a couple of new faces to be the stars of that offense is great. John Mateer is so much fun to watch. At Washington State last year, he was lighting it up, and he's obviously gone with Ben Arbuckle, and that's great news for John Mateer because it's a quarterback-friendly offense. For Jaden Ott, it's not quite as appealing because Arbuckle doesn't traditionally give his running backs a solid amount of carries or an excessive amount of carries. Let's put it generously to Arbuckle. I don't think Ott is going to be toting the rock as much as he would have done at Cal and as much as he has done at Cal over the last couple of years. What he does ask for from his running backs in particular is speed and versatility. And that is a marriage made in heaven for Jaden Ott and this offense because his burst is elite. Jaden Ott's burst is excellent. He has fabulous vision and he's got really good decision making. So I do really like the fit in the scheme. The plus or minus being how many carries he's going to get, how many opportunities he's going to have per game to really show off his ability. But then, the counter to that is he's going to have a bit more tread on the tires because he was being worn into the ground a little bit at Cal as their best option.
Yeah. No, it makes complete sense. And yeah, wait and see. It's definitely an interesting landing spot, and he is an NFL caliber back in the future. And so yeah, we'll wait and see how it goes for him. But yeah, the first big piece the first big Devy relevant piece to really move in the spring portal, which is mad. It's only open for 9 days. Like the purpose of this spring portal was really for people to kind of restock if they ran into a problem on their roster. It wasn't really designed as the opportunity for players to be leaving en masse. You're looking at players entering the portal who perhaps were on rosters and on depth charts and realizing that they were a lot further down than they were expecting to be. So we weren't really expecting lots of high-profile Devy relevant names to enter. So the very fact that we've got Iam Aliava and Jaden Ott just as the kind of two headline acts, and who knows? Again, it's changing daily. So let's just wait and see.
Yeah, it's a little bit. I think the transfer portal is showing us that it is not as easy to transfer into another program, even if your talent, if you're on an equal footing with somebody else who's on somebody else's roster and you want to join. It's not so easy to just be picked up because people have invested time in their guys. And there are over 3,500 college football athletes in the transfer portal right now. And they will not all find a home by the time this window shuts. And for a lot of these guys who have been given potentially bad advice, they won't find a home. And that will be the end of not only their college football career, but their education, their college education, because they won't have a scholarship and they can't afford to continue their studies. So there's a real danger warning here for players that are being told the grass is greener. It isn't always. So that a bit of a downside to that. It's not really relevant for most of our Devy players because they will be picked up because their primary elements are their ball playing. But yeah, a bit of a blemish on the transfer portal, which isn't all roses anyway.
That's it. Man, just remember when college football was about students getting an education as part of
it. And they had to attend every class.
Yeah, who'd have thought? Anyway, listen, moving on. Obviously, keeping it Devy relevant. Big name quarterback prospect picking up an injury. It appears DJ Lagway didn't throw at all, or very very minimally in the Florida spring game. With a shoulder injury has been reported, which wasn't the original injury that we kind of thought he might have been carrying at the end of last year and kind of close season. Yeah, so tell us what you're thinking.
Yeah, so absolutely no passes thrown in the spring game and really limited snaps on the field for DJ Lagway, which is concerning. We haven't heard anything further about it, so it could be precautionary, but we have heard that it's a shoulder issue, and that is not great for a quarterback where your shoulder is fairly important to being able to throw the ball. And I believe it is his throwing shoulder. So one to watch, some news to keep an eye on, potentially an opportunity to, well, I don't want to say sell DJ Lagway, but maybe I do mean, can you move within your quarterback tier? Can you send off Lagway and pick up Arch Manning by throwing in a third round Devy pick, something like that? This might be your opportunity to do that before his stock tanks a little bit if it's a more serious injury.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense, and that is the most kind of relevant part of that information. It's not just shipping him off because he's a potential elite asset. It is moving within the same tier. Mm-hmm. Either taking a slight bit off the top and taking a Lenora Stellars perhaps, or maybe adding on and going after Arch. Again, because the only way you're going to get an Arch Manning if Arch Manning is now the player that you really want is going to be by trading another elite asset like that for him. So yeah, good advice all around. Me personally, I will be waiting to hear more about the shoulder injury before I try and do anything because I am so in on DJ Lagway that I would hate myself if I sold him and then watched him blow up somewhere else. So I suppose the other thing about this is obviously we were really excited and have spoken together and been really quite bullish about Florida's prospects this coming season. And one of the kind of things that we were really looking for was the impact of running back Jaden Bott. This injury could potentially spell really, really good news if a backup or a second string QB is going to enter the fall. Maybe, let's say Lagway is not ready to go in kind of August, September. Let's say he's not right until midway through for whatever reason. It would be completely speculative. The opportunity to lean on and back with the talent of Jaden Bott and then a second string back, who I'm not even going to call the second string back now after the way he's been playing in spring practice, in Jacoby Jackson. Jacoby Jackson is a name that is everywhere at the moment after an electric performance in the spring game. He had 10 carries for 198 yards and 3 touchdowns, which is absolutely bonkers. Now, how the defense is playing these, you don't ever really know, and we should always be mindful of blowing up too much based on one spring game performance. But it definitely shows that there's some talent there, and yeah, maybe it's the opportunity to definitely one be looking at Jaden Ball, but two, Jacoby Jackson's got an opportunity to showcase his skill set.
Yeah, definitely two guys that, one that you've definitely heard of, one that you will have been hearing about more recently. Players to pick up, players who are just really exciting anyway. They're absolute buys for me, both of them. I think they're in for a good season whether Lagway's playing or not. Obviously, if I don't actually know the makeup of that Florida quarterback room behind DJ Lagway, but they haven't got another quarterback as dynamic in the running game as DJ Lagway, because it's very hard to find anyone that is as dynamic as DJ Lagway in the running game. So there's going to be more carries to be had if DJ Lagway's not running the ball. And if he's not playing. So a little bit concerning for Eugene Wilson shares, but we'll just have to wait and see. He's obviously had an injury anyway, so yeah,
and you've got to think. I suppose it's not going to be 100% run. A player with Eugene Wilson's skill set and the way that he sits in those kind of soft, short to intermediate, kind of shallow parts of the field will probably be a really, really good safety valve for anybody that comes in and tries to take snaps for DJ Lagway. The one it worries me for is Dallas Wilson. Now, we haven't really spoken about Dallas Wilson yet, but incoming 5-star freshman receiver, who people have been very, very high on from what they've seen early doors. You just worry that if he's missing his go-to guy, it'll be fairly, it might just stifle his early production and development. He seems talented enough to not really have to worry about it long term. But obviously, when we look at these kind of year 1-0 metrics, playing without your go-to guy could obviously impact how you start and potentially your long-term Devy outlook.
Yes, and I promise you, we'll be talking about him quite a lot in the future because I'm very excited, as I know you are, about this prospect. So, we'll see what goes on at Florida over the next few weeks. We'll monitor it, and we'll obviously caveat that into any of our values around Florida position skill makers.
Cool, right. Anything else we want to touch on nice and quick before we get into the main business, our freshman quarterback deep dive?
Yeah, a bit more sad news, and I know especially for you, Phil, because Jeremiah Love, the running back out of Notre Dame, has another soft tissue injury, and that is his third soft tissue injury. So it's to the lower body. Couldn't tell you exactly which muscle it is because I'm not a doctor, but he's picked up another soft tissue injury, I believe, and so another one to monitor. But it's becoming a bit of a question mark around his future durability if he's picking up this many soft tissue injuries in college.
Yeah, makes complete sense. There's no point in arguing about it. We've all seen just how good he can be. I released a 2026 perspective way too early dynasty first round mock this week, where I took him as the first kind of non-quarterback off the board. That obviously doesn't account for durability concerns. And you're right, another soft tissue injury is concerning. And as talented as he is, your best ability is availability. And we've seen just how fickle it can be, particularly in the running back market in Dynasty. If you're not healthy, you're not worth anything to an owner. So, yeah, it's definitely concerning and one to watch over the coming weeks, particularly before these Devy drafts start up. If you get any news that it's more serious or more lingering, more long term, he'll be available in a good number of Devy leagues at the moment. I would wager, and where you then take him in the early part of those Devy startups is, again, going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think he'll be going 101 in most supplemental Devy drafts if he's not already owned. So if you own that 101, or I'd be looking to sell that to someone who values Jeremiah Love as highly as his ceiling is, which is incredible. I'm just always cautious on my optimism of how running backs are going to fare in the future.
For this reason. For exactly that reason.
For this reason.
That's it. Okay then, right. The main part of the show, the bit that we've been promising and teasing for months and months and months. Let's dive into our freshman quarterback deep dive. On the last show, we spun the wheel of fortune and identified our six, or who was going to be discussing which of the six QBs. Jack kind of alluded to it at the start. It's an interesting crop of incoming quarterbacks, and I would describe it as top heavy. I think the elite talent at the top um, is potentially very, very good. But I do think, although there's quite a big number of guys coming in, obviously want to really draw a difference between C2C and Devy here, or CFF and Devy. Devy wise, I question the drop off after the top 3 or 4. So I'm interested to hear what you've got to say, because I really feel like I came away with 3 of the top 4 in this exercise to look at. Um, and from what I've seen below them, leaves me wondering about the kind of finer parts of where their Devy potential lies as future NFL quarterbacks. But yeah, the top end is really, really promising. Uh, if I kind of dive straight in, if you like, then with our first prospect, because I did get the first guy, and that is Bryce Underwood at Michigan. 4 year starter at Belleville High School. He established himself as one of the most kind of dominant quarterbacks in the entire country. Led his team to 2 Michigan State championships, racking up over 10,000 passing yards and 130 touchdowns. Completed over 70% of his passes in his junior season. And yeah, again, just phenomenal accolades following a potentially phenomenal prospect. Underwood is that kind of prototype of a modern dual threat QB. Strong arm, quick release, ability to deliver accurately to all 3 levels of the field. Really comfortable navigating the pocket. He doesn't look to escape too early. He keeps his eyes downfield, but then he's more than capable of extending plays with his legs and picking up chunks when plays break down. Love the fact he's got this kind of nuanced kind of ability to throw from all kind of arm angles. Um, yeah, really, really exciting. The biggest strengths I could pick out, elite arm strength. He can push the ball deep with velocity and touch. Pocket poise really, really stood out to me. And we know high school tape's difficult to really, particularly for us guys, we don't get to look at the all 22 kind of or extensive game footage of highlight film, of high school tape. We very much rely on huddle highlights, so of course we're going to see the best bits. It is a slight problem with the process, but we do what we can. We do the best what we've got. I was really impressed with the elite arm strength. I would call it elite. Pocket poise, like I said, the way he keeps his eyes downfield, looking to stay calm under pressure, and the decision making that goes with that. He's not a pure running QB, but he can escape and make plays, which is always going to, if he can rock up 40 to 50 yards on the ground, in addition to what he's doing through the air, then that's fantasy gold. And then again, the kid wins. The kid wins. 4 year starter, multiple championships. I know that terrifies you, given that he's playing for Michigan. For me, he's the top Devy QB prospect in this group, and I would be hard pushed to be challenged otherwise. He's got a realistic path to early playing time at Michigan, obviously, which is going to be good for his development. And his mix of talent and production, for me, makes him very much a potential future first-round NFL pick. He should be one of the top QBs off the board in any Devy draft. Obviously, once you get outside the elite in terms of the 4 names that we've already discussed, he's kind of leading that next crop for me.
Yeah, I have not done as deep a dive as you, but this guy is the mustard. He really does seem to be one of the rare quarterbacks who deserves that 101 status in the freshman crop. Regardless of position, I think Bryce Underwood is probably the best prospect in the 2025 recruitment class, full stop.
Yeah.
And it does pain me that he's gone to a program that I dislike greatly. But it really sounds like he's won the job there already. They seem to be pretty sold on Bryce Underwood being their starting quarterback for this season, and that's pretty impressive to come in from high school and beat out a couple of multi-year starters at the college level. It's all systems go for Bryce Underwood.
Absolutely. When we compare, I mean, obviously we sat together with George a year ago and looked at the incoming crop from the last cycle. For me, he is head and shoulders above what we saw from Dylan Raiola, Julian Sayin, dare I say it, even DJ Lagway in terms of a starting point where he's coming in at. And again, dare I say it, people will be really kind of questioning me now. But having gone through this process myself a couple of times, like we all know how highly recruited Archman is. But I would very much say that in terms of the polish of the player coming into college, I would dare say that Bryce Underwood is above where Archman was.
High praise. High praise indeed. Okay, here's a trade offer. You own Bryce Underwood, and someone's offering you DJ Lagway straight up for Bryce Underwood. Are you taking that trade just to gauge where you're at?
I would have a hard time doing that right now. I like to see something first, and like I said, for me, he's just outside that top crop right now. But ask me again in a couple of months' time. Maybe that answer will be different. Yeah, so right now, I think there is clearly. If you're asking me, has he got the potential to be the most elite of all those players? Yes, I think he has the potential to be the most elite. But having to wait till 2028 at the earliest, obviously skews that value slightly still for me. I would rather lean towards I'll keep him just outside that pocket for now, outside of Arch, DJ Lagway, Lenoris Sellers. Yeah, he's just outside of that.
I love that answer. I think that's exactly where he fits in for me too. I think I've got Arch and Lenora Sellers tied at the top there, DJ Lagway, and then Bryce Underwood could easily slot in that fourth quarterback value in terms of my Devy ranks right now. So that's exciting. You asked, or you said you'd be interested in my opinion on the quarterback class as a whole, and I'll do that now just before we dive in and get lost in all the exciting prospects. I really believe that there is a top two in this class that are kind of as much as you can be in the world of college football are kind of set in stone as the top tier in this quarterback class, and that is Bryce Underwood and Keelan Russell, who will come on to later for very different reasons. As Phil will explain, the playing styles are quite different, but they are the top two prospects. Then there are a few players who have the potential to break into that tier, but right now they are more hit or miss in terms of what they've shown me so far. And like we say, we don't have access to every Friday night game or even any Friday night game, so we're only passing our judgment on the tape that we've seen. But I think there's a top two, and then there's a few prospects that could break into that top tier, and so one of those that could break into it is Taven St. Clair, who has committed to Ohio State. So Taven St. Clair has such ideal size for a quarterback already. It's almost unfair. I can't imagine playing against this guy in high school because he's 6'4", 225 pounds, and that was coming out of high school. So having been in a college weight room, I don't know what that would have done to his body already, but that's ridiculous. So that's interesting for NFL scouts already, because that size is excellent for an NFL quarterback. Sinclair is a really accurate passer. He's very comfortable moving laterally and throwing on the run for design plays. So there's a lot of tape of him kind of rolling out to the left or the right. And I'm very happy to see that he can go both ways, set his feet and make the pass. But obviously those are on design plays. So it is a little bit easier when you know where you've got to drop to, where you've got to slide across to, and where your first read is. But he's quite happy moving with the pocket or being in a moving pocket. And that accuracy is probably his biggest strength. He loves to thread the needle. He's got a really tight spiral on his throws, and he's very accurate in small windows, which is, again, that's an NFL trait, isn't it? That's, you know, the windows get smaller and smaller the further you go in your American football career. So I love that in his game. He, surprisingly, with that build, is more of a pocket passer, but he has the build to be a bruising runner. He isn't. He doesn't run, but obviously that could become something that he incorporates into his game at the college level. The problem is he lacks the raw pace to be a proper dual threat quarterback. He doesn't have that top end speed. But I would say that there is some signs that he could develop and work on the footwork aspect of the rushing game and be a serviceable rusher. He'll never be a true dual threat, but he could add a bit of rushing into his game, which obviously increases his fantasy football value. You can tell that Taven Sinclair also played baseball because he's got a little bit of a longer throwing motion, which is great when you've got good pocket protection. Can be a challenge if you don't. I think, fortunately, he's going to Ohio State, so they should recruit a strong, talented offensive line to give him a good pocket. But it's something to bear in mind. If he can quicken up his release, that would probably help him as an NFL prospect. This guy went to high school in Ohio. So in terms of like the level of competition that he's playing against on tape, it's not the highest. It's not the greatest level of competition. So he went to Bellefontaine High School. Yeah, not an elite level of competition. And he did have excellent protection. So you rarely see him having to step up or slide out of a pocket unless it's been designed. So it's not usually because of pressure. So we don't really know if he can improvise on the run. We know he can make throws on the run, and he can make throws when he has to move left or right for a design play. But if he can do that on the fly when he has to improvise, that's what I want to see. I think he can probably do it, but I just haven't seen any of that. And we also, because he's had such a good pocket, we don't really know whether he has a good feel for his pocket, whether he knows when to step up, when it's collapsing, when to escape. So the good news is he's in the perfect place to develop with a really talented supporting cast. Unless things change dramatically at Ohio State, he's going to have very talented wide receivers, tight ends, running backs that he can lean on, and he can distribute the ball to and not feel like he has to lock into one target, which I think is really good for someone like Taven Sinclair. Especially as he adjusts to a more complex offense and quite a steep uptick in level of competition.
Brilliant. Nah, what a great breakdown. He obviously is one that I've not really set my eyes on. He was a buzzy name in the recruiting cycle. I know Ohio State were very, very pleased to get him and had to kind of wrestle him away from a couple of other big fish. So yeah, let's see where it goes. I think he's got time to wait. How long he'll wait? Because obviously he's only a year behind Julian Sayin, who looks, all things going as they should, to be the guy leading the race to start this forthcoming season. So yeah, I suppose just in this modern world, how patient will these elite prospects wait? But right now, you're right. He's in a great place to learn and develop. Moving on then. Sorry, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, and he has beaten out, obviously, Air Noland has transferred out of Ohio State to South Carolina, and Lincoln Kineholz is not currently in the transfer portal, but there's a real possibility Ohio State could be relying on Tavian Sinclair to be the backup this season, which isn't the greatest thing for Ohio State, but would be great experience for Tavian Sinclair.
Absolutely right. So we'll move on then. You got to talk about your guy, and then amazingly, on the wheel of fortune, I spun my guy. So I got Keelan Russell, and one of the first things that you pointed out, or one of the first things I want to kind of discuss in terms of Keelan Russell, is because you mentioned it for Tavian Sinclair, is the level of competition. Interestingly, these two guys have kind of got polar opposite experiences, because Russell was really highly effective at Duncanville, which is one of Texas's top programs, and we all know that Texas is an absolute hotbed for college football. He put up some lofty numbers. As a junior, he posted a 74% completion rate, throwing for over 3,200 yards, 35 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. As a senior, he dominated again. He upped the passing to 3,800 yards and 50 total touchdowns he accounted for through the air and on the ground. As an Alabama fan, watching his tape after the roller coaster I've been on this last couple of years in the Jalen Milroe experience was beautiful. Russell's not a dual threat quarterback. He is very much more a high IQ pocket passer, processes defensive quickly, and consistently delivers the ball on time to his targets. He thrives in that kind of rhythm-based offense, where he gets to show off accuracy and elite kind of ball placement. He's not a run-first guy, but again, he's got enough juice to extend plays when he needs to, which obviously makes him a lot more valuable in terms of where we look at people as a Devy prospect. He is, like I said, the big trait that jumped out over and over again was the accuracy, throwing his receivers open, and the kind of at Duncanville he's going to be playing with good prospects, and he did. He played with an elite wide receiver prospect, who we'll mention on the next show, I'm sure. But yeah, what can't be overlooked is the kind of smart decision making, the accuracy, the smooth mechanics, that quick, repeatable release with really good footwork, and in Coach DeBoer's kind of system, the opportunity to play up tempo is going to be really, really important, and I think he does that as well as anybody. He's going to need to add size to his frame, which you hope getting in the college weight room will help him do. And look, arm strength isn't the be all and end all. I think casual Devy fans will, or even casual Dynasty fans, when they're looking at reports on QBs, will look at this idea of arm strength and panic if you say that it's not elite. It doesn't have to be elite. It just has to be good enough, and that's where I put Keelan Russell's. His arm strength relies more on his timing and velocity than actually being able to grip it and rip it. Whether you want to knock him for that, you can. I don't think it's a huge ding, but it definitely is one of the weaker traits to his game, I'd say.
But the reverse of that is the elite arm strength guy that can't process an offense properly and isn't accurate, and that is Joe Milton.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have long had my say on Joe Milton. So look, right now I think you're right. I think he is the clear number 2. I don't think he's where Bryce Underwood is. But there is no other quarterback in this cycle I would have been happier with Alabama landing. And in terms of Devy, the only other one that I feel really, really secure in their potential as a future Day 1 draft prospect.
Exciting stuff. I bet that makes you feel real good that he is an Alabama player.
Absolutely, yeah. especially like I said, especially after the last couple of years. And I don't want to keep dogging on Jalen Milroe. Like he gave us some great moments, but they were only that. They were moments because the consistency never came. The idea of like the quick mechanics, that repeatable, smooth motion with the solid footwork. There were things that we just never saw from Jalen Milroe. So he won't start day one. It's likely to be Ty Simpson, but when his number's called, when it's his time, he's going to be ready. I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he has pushed Ty Simpson so hard in this off-season bodes really well for his maturity and development and growth throughout the season to come, and will stand him in really good stead to start next year, unless Ty Simpson is magnificent beyond our wildest dreams and doesn't go to the NFL. I imagine this will be Keelan Russell's offense in 2026.
I certainly think so. Right. Who was your next one?
My next quarterback is Hussein Longstreet, who has committed to USC. And as well as having the funniest first name I think I may have ever heard, and the ironic Longstreet name that is quite long, he is a 6 foot, 202-pound quarterback who has played in California. His high school football's been in California in strong competition with Continental High School, who I believe have produced quite a few high-profile NFL players. This guy is a Lincoln Riley quarterback. He is a true dual threat with an explosive arm. He has real arm strength to launch that ball and find those deep passes downfield. I say he's a Lincoln Riley dream because this is the kind of quarterback that Lincoln Riley has traditionally had success with, and he hasn't had in his time at USC. Now, obviously, Caleb Williams was very successful, but he wasn't this kind of true dual threat, electric runner, super cannon fueled arm that Hussein Longstreet can be. So this guy is an RPO dream if he is your quarterback, and an absolute nightmare if you are a linebacker trying to predict what he's going to do with the ball, whether he's going to throw it or keep it. He's twitchy. He's really elusive as a runner, and I'm probably going to focus on his running more than his passing because that is what really excited me. The way that he was able to make a guy miss in multiple ways is really promising and really fun. I think USC have not necessarily had the most fun with Miller Moss last season. So this guy provides a bit of a spark. He could do with working on his accuracy and his consistency. He's got absolutely no fear throwing some spectacular boundary catches. But can he make that throw 8 times out of 10 rather than 5 times out of 10?
Sure.
He's not afraid to make them, but he isn't consistently going to hit the receiver in stride over the shoulder where the DB can't get to it. So that's what I'd like to see him work on. He lacks a bit of touch on his passing. He can zip in some throws where he really doesn't need to, really giving the receiver a hot hand. My biggest question mark around Longstreet is how tied he is to Lincoln Riley, because that USC head coach is a bit of a hot seat right now. They've not had the most successful couple of years, and what impact that will have on Longstreet. I think he really has one of the higher ceilings in this class as a Devy quarterback, but he also has quite a low floor because if he's not tied to Lincoln Riley, I don't know if another coach will get the best out of him.
Yeah, it's an interesting take, and it's really these dual threat quarterbacks. We know that if they hit and if they get it right, they're an absolute goldmine for fantasy. It seems to be it's the skill set that we're all clamoring for, but very few of these guys get it right. If you had to put your money, I'll put it another way, Jack. Would you feel comfortable drafting him, or is he too boom bust for you?
I was going to say Longstreet is the guy that I would take in the third round of a Devy draft if I had 2 picks in that third round, because his ceiling is really high and he's going to be available in those third rounds. Whereas Bryce Underwood, as much as I really like him, he's not going to be available in the first round unless I've got the 101. And if I have the 101, I'm going to trade it.
Yeah, perfect. Right, fair play. Sticking with this dual threat theme then, and absolute rare athletic specimens, I'm going to talk about Deuce Knight, who has committed to Auburn, and this guy is really exciting. Really, really exciting. He is a rare athlete. I can't remember the last time that Auburn had a physically imposing, quick, strong, athletic quarterback. Oh yeah, they had Cam Newton, didn't they? Look, I'm not saying for a moment he's going to be Cam Newton, but he is an unbelievable athlete. 6'4". He's got a verified 40-yard dash in the 4.5s. And he also bursts a 40-inch vertical. Like, I mean, that's frightening, for a kid who is only just coming into college. He is a rare, rare athlete. One of the weird things about watching him is he's also a lefty. And so just everything you feel like, you kind of sit there and you think, well, how much difference could that make? Like, in terms of watching the tip, it just made everything look a bit more ungainly, is the only way I can put it. So, like, I don't want to knock him for being left-handed. Look, there are other left-handed quarterbacks that go on to play in the league and do incredibly well. Like, I'm not saying for a moment that is to his detriment. It just made things look a bit clumsier, like given his tall frame, and yeah, it just looked odd at times mechanically. Look, he's a big-bodied dual threat QB. The rushing potential and the rushing ability is unbelievable, and he has a strong arm. Like he's got the arm that Keelan Russell doesn't in terms of the strength. He can really toss it. His size and speed will make him dangerous inside and outside the pocket, but he is a developing passer. Like I want to be completely clear. Like right now, the passing, if it doesn't improve, makes the floor incredibly low. It's just like the conversation you just had. Like I said, strong arm, he can push it downfield. He takes just huge broken plays into big gains. And the upside is there. Like if he develops as a passer, he could be truly special. The footwork in particular needs major, major work. He tends to lock onto his first read if he is passing, which can be a problem. Like I said, if he again, he is one who honestly, I think I would rather let someone else take the risk. But I could completely and utterly understand someone betting on the traits and betting on the upside. His athletic traits, like I said, are off the charts, but he just needs time to develop. My big question is, when was the last time? You talked about Tavian St. Clair and what Tavian St. Clair needed to do and how Ohio State is the perfect system to let him develop. It's not me being an Alabama fan knocking Auburn here, but when was the last time that Auburn truly developed a quarterback talent to make you feel comfortable in taking him? For me, is a risky investment, but the payoff, if you are risk averse, could be absolutely huge.
Sounds really exciting. Someone that you hit your bandwagon to, and you're either going to be so right, you're going to be telling everyone for years, or you're just going to quietly let that one slide away. But probably not at too big an expense. Again, I don't imagine you're spending more than at most a late second round pick on Deuce Knight.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's one league I play in where every year it's a 10-round draft, and you're at the point on the board now where the only people available are emerging breakouts. Someone who came out of absolutely nowhere, so taking Isaac Brown, the running back at Louisville last season, kind of burst onto the scene. He will go high in this draft, obviously, because it is so picked over. Or freshmen go. So I can see him being a kind of top 3 round pick in that draft because people will. It's also very, very high QB scoring. So again, there's a sweet spot in a draft like that. If you know your league settings, like if it does reward highly QB play, if you can get the sweet spot right in your draft, it'd be well worth that. The upside is huge. And if he flames out, hey, it's just another QB that flamed out. As long as you haven't overly banked on him, as long as you've not gone high and spent capital that would be a much safer investment elsewhere, and like I say, fortune favors the brave, right?
Yeah, I really feel like Deuce Knight, from the limited amount I've seen of him and what you've just told me, is the guy that I want to spend, if he's available, my last round Devy pick on, because if he's nothing, I can drop him or trade him, or it depends on your league settings. But if he hits, he's going to be much more expensive next year. It's one of those where if you don't pick him up now, no one will, and everybody's got the opportunity to see him grow and develop if he gets on the field. So you can get ahead of the curve if you've got nobody else that is a screaming value. It sounds like the guy I'm going to be picking up in those situations.
Absolutely. So to close us out then, Jack, you got Julian Lewis, the new incoming Colorado quarterback. Obviously, Shedeur is on his way to the NFL, maybe the second round. The way things are looking for him at the moment, look, he'll be a first round QB, I guess. But Julian Lewis is a name that has done the high school kind of 7-on-7 circuit for a long, long time. People knew early, who perhaps drifted off the kind of elite recruits. Tell us what you saw and what you think about Julian Lewis.
Yeah, like you say, he's a name that we all heard very early, and then he's kind of dripped down the recruiting rankings as people have had eyes on other quarterbacks a little bit more. So Julian Lewis is 6'1", 190 pounds, so a little bit slimmer than some of the other quarterbacks we've been talking about, but he has the kind of frame that can add muscle mass, which I think would be great. I think he probably needs to add a little bit of muscle mass to be a true Devy asset. But understandably, he is younger than a lot of these guys that we're talking about. He reclassified, he skipped his senior season. The pros on Julian Lewis are his rapid release. He's got a very quick release on his throws. He can get that ball out really quickly with excellent pace on it to the first and second level. The downside is there's barely anything showing me that he can make those deep passes down the field. The third level is just not really in his wheelhouse at the moment. So if you look at his pass map and his A dot, it's minor league stuff, really. Everything is within 7-8 yards of the line of scrimmage. And that's either side. Like, it's not always passes going forward. So a lot of his statistics are yards after the catch from his receivers or running backs. And I totally get feeding the ball to your playmakers, especially in high school, where you get your ball, you get the ball into your best players' hands quickly. They can make a guy miss and they'll score a touchdown. And that is what a high school coach really is all about. So I understand that, but it won't translate to the college game. There's a lot that isn't on tape that needs to be shown in order for Julian Lewis to be a Devy asset, in my opinion. He's not much of a runner. He could do with developing some of that arm strength to be a threat downfield, because defenses and defensive coordinators are just going to squeeze the field. They're going to limit the space over the middle They're going to limit the space for those short and intermediate routes, and they're going to challenge him to beat them deep. They'll probably leave corners on islands for him to take shots one-on-one, and until he shows that he can do that, they're going to keep doing that, because there really isn't much there deep down the field or to the boundary. I said he feels like somebody who can win you games on Saturdays, but I'm not drafting him thinking that he's going to do much on Sundays, and my mind would need to be quite significantly changed. But my next note, but then there's the Sanders effect. So there's a lot of eyes on Colorado. The hype can build. Shedeur Sanders is certainly not someone that I would be taking in the top half of the first round of the NFL draft, but the buzz has been there. The buzz has even been top 4. I think he's sliding in, but who knows? It's all smoke and mirrors in the last. Gosh, we've only got 2 weeks till the draft, so that's exciting. But yeah, I will not be drafting any of Julian Lewis. He is someone who I'm very happy to surprise me and completely flip my evaluation on its head.
Yep, makes absolute sense to me. Ironically, just as you were talking and you were describing Julian Lewis's skill set, I just kept thinking he plays like Shedeur Sanders.
Mm-hmm. Except he doesn't have the arm strength to make some of those like really highlighty throws that Shedeur makes, where he can square his chest up and throw the ball back across his body. Julian Lewis doesn't appear to have the arm strength for that.
But it does appear, like, because ultimately, like you did say about high school QB, high school coaches, appear to win high school games. Dion right now is getting paid to win games at Colorado, and it sounds like Julian Lewis will fit that system. And if he's nothing more, then yeah, fair play. But yeah, as a Devy prospect, we're giving advice to let other people recognize the name and draft that name.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Fabulous. Okay, well, there it is then. That is the quarterbacks taken care of. The next show, we would like to discuss the incoming freshman running backs. So there's only one way to settle this, Jack. We need another game. And I thought this time we could just make it nice and simple. We could play heads or tails. Okay. So if you call first, if you get it right, you can choose the player. If you get it wrong, I will assign you the running back, and vice versa.
Okay, sounds fair. I'm going to, for those listening, we've got a coin flip simulator. And for those watching, if it's not showing on the screen, like we had a problem with a few weeks ago, there is a simulator on the screen. I'm going to call it as tails, and we'll see where we land. It's heads, Phil. First choice. Oh, you're assigning, aren't you?
Yeah, so I will assign you. I'm feeling kind. I'm feeling really kind. I'm going to give you incoming Ohio State running back Anthony Rogers.
Excellent. That is very kind of you, because I'm very excited to watch a bit more of his spring game. Okay,
right.
Your turn.
My call. Heads.
Here we go. It is heads. You have your choice.
Right. Okay. I am going to avoid right now the Alabama running back, although I am very keen on Eckler. Yeah. I'm going to take Kylan Berry from LSU, because at one point he was picked as the guy. Again, that noise cooled a little bit, so I want to get to know why.
Very nice. Very nice. I'm gonna stick with tails. And I'll tell you who I will pick if it is tails. It's not tails. I would be picking Gideon Davidson here out of Clemson, because I was very high on David Eziamume last year, and he doesn't seem to have struck the right notes at Clemson yet. So I'm interested to see who they've got in that back room with him.
Okay. Oh, well, I'll tell you what. I'll give you that one. So Gideon Davis is all yours, Jack.
Oh, great! It was all that manipulation. I've worked really hard on it. And you're cool, Phil.
Tails.
It's got to be, surely. No, it's another heads. Okay, I'm going to give you Usmane Cromer out of Florida State. I can't say I know anything about him, but Florida State certainly need some shine, and their fans certainly need something good to talk about. So do them a favour, Phil.
Absolutely. Okay, Jack, it's your final call.
This one's got to be tails, surely, or am I 0 for 3? It's tails. I've got it, and I'll take Jordan Davison, the running back at Oregon, to leave you your dearest running back.
Fantastic. Okay, so I get Ecklendia. So just to summarize, Jack, you will be looking at Gideon Davison at Clemson, Anthony Rogers of Ohio State, and Jordan Davison of Oregon. I will be looking at Usman Cromer from Florida State, Ecklendia from Alabama, and Harlan Berry from LSU. Really, that just leaves us to thank you all for checking out tonight's show. On tonight's show, we have given you the lowdown on the craziness of the spring portal. We have given you our blow for blow on 6 of the top incoming freshman QBs. Come back, see us again in 2 weeks' time when we'll be discussing the freshman running back. Until then, as always, you can follow us on X, Wildcard Devy. You can follow the whole gang on at Fantasy Wildcard on X and YouTube. The guys are putting out great dynasty content in the run up to your rookie drafts. Make sure you go check that out. Go check out the guys' solo work as well. All right, even the extended fam. Look, we've got the guys that were doing the rewind show. Lewis is putting out some amazing content. Obviously, Mags is doing his stuff with the hot seat. We are the team to be checking out. If there's anything you need fantasy wise, we've got you covered. Jack, anything you want to say before we head out?
Just remember that the Tadpole Bowl, that'd be good to check out, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Sweet. All right, take care, guys.
Bye.